So today we'll take up the next poem, which is Robert Frost's poem Dust of Snow. It's a very short poem with only 2 stanzas in it, and each stanza is a quatrain. Quatrain means only 4 verses are there in each stanza. So there are 2 stanzas, and each stanza is having 4 verses, or you can say 4 lines in it. So it's a very short poem, but it has a very deep meaning once again. It is related to nature and human emotions. So the title itself suggests it's dust of snow. So dusting here, dust is एक तो धूल होता है, the dust particles, but here the author is not talking about dust or धूल, but the author is talking about किसी चीज़ को साफ करना, झटकना या झाड़ना. So here dust, to dust is झाड़ना. तो so let's start understanding the poem. So the author says, the way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. So यहाँ पे author is trying to explain or point out a crow's action of dusting or shooking down the snow on the author. So the way a crow shook down on me. So he's saying that the crow, he's talking about the crow, which usually is termed as a bad omen, unlucky, maybe because of its color, etc. So people consider crow as unlucky. So the way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. So he's saying that a crow, maybe he came from somewhere and he must have sat on the hemlock tree and he shook down on the author some particles of snow. That means a crow आकर बैठा, it sat down on the hemlock tree. Basically this action is not specifically described by the author कि क्रो आकर बैठा या वहाँ से पास हुआ या वो स्नो क्रो के किस एक्शन की वजह से ऑथर के ऊपर गिरी. So he is not talking about or describing those actions. He is just saying that the way a crow, किसी तरह से कोई भी एक्शन हो सकता है, whatever the readers want to perceive. So the crow shook down on me. तो crow के मे बी पास होने की वजह से या बैठने की वजह से हेमलॉक ट्री पे थोड़ी सी स्नो जो हेमलॉक ट्री पे जमी होगी, वो स्नो it fell on the author. Again the author is silent about कि वो snow author के किस body part पे गिरी, whether on the head or on the shoulder, but some particles of snow fell on the author. The dust of snow from a hemlock tree. Now again, hemlock tree is termed as a poisonous tree जो स्नोई रीजन्स में पाया जाता है with white flowers. So again एक because it's a poisonous tree, so it is not termed as lucky because of the nature of that tree. So this hemlock tree basically looks like very closely resembles a Christmas tree, but the branches are much softer than the branches or the leaves of the Christmas tree. So the hemlock tree क्योंकि बर्फ़ वाले रीजन्स में, स्नोई रीजन्स में होता है हेमलॉक ट्री और काफ़ी टॉल होता है, तो उस पर बर्फ़ जमी होगी, स्नो उस पर स्नो की कोटिंग होगी, एंड कहीं से क्रो आया और उसके किसी एक्शन की वजह से या तो वो ब्रांच पे बैठा या उसने मे बी वो जस्ट पास हुआ और उसके पास होने से ही हेमलॉक ट्री पे जमी हुई स्नो फेल ऑन दी ऑथर. तो तो यहाँ पे एक बहुत ही सिंपल सा पैराग्राफ है विथ जस्ट 4 वर्सेस इन इट, और इसमें ऑथर बहुत कुछ नहीं कह रहे हैं. द ऑथर इज़ जस्ट डिस्क्राइबिंग a very simple action of the crow due to which some particles of snow fell on the author from the hemlock tree. तो इसमें ना 2 ऐसी चीज़ों का यूज़ करा गया है from nature, which is crow and hemlock tree, which are usually connected with some unlucky things, because hemlock tree is termed as poisonous and crow is termed as having a bad omen. Okay, so both these things are taken from nature to describe this particular action. Now before we move on to the next stanza, we will just talk about the literary devices used by the poet here. So the first literary device is of course imagery, which is used by the author very beautifully here. What is imagery? Imagery is whenever you read something, okay, the words are so much interwoven, interconnected, and picked in such a way, maybe from nature or from from the surroundings, that you create a picture in your mind of those things. So here the author is beautifully describing the action of the crow and the hemlock tree, and how the snow fell on the author because of the movement of the crow from the hemlock tree. So when we read these lines, this gives us a beautiful picture which we can create in our mind of this hemlock tree covered with snow, and how the crow must have passed from there, or must have maybe sat on one of the branches of that hemlock tree, and how some particles of the snow fell on the author who was standing under that hemlock tree. So beautiful imagery which is connected with nature, which we can create in our mind while we read these verses, these lines. Next is the rhyming scheme. So the rhyming scheme here is A B. So the first line, last word crow, rhymes with the word snow, which is verse number 3, and me and tree, last word from verse number 2 rhymes with verse number 4, which is me and tree. So crow rhymes with snow and me rhymes with tree. This gives us a rhyming pattern, AB and AB. Next is assonance. The author has used assonance here, which again gives a rhythmic pattern to this poem. Now what is assonance? Assonance is repetition of vowel sounds which are used in very closely connected words. So in line number 2 here, if you can see, shook down on me, the sound of the vowel O is being repeated here in very closely connected words, which is shook shook down on me. So here assonance is beautifully used by the author. Next is enjambment. So enjambment is when one verse of the poem moves into the next verse without the use of any punctuation mark. That is termed as enjambment. So here, if you can see, in the whole stanza there is no punctuation mark at the end of the verse, at the end of the line. So the way a crow, without any punctuation marks, it moves down into the second verse, then into the third, and then the fourth. So there is no particular or specific closure to any of the, or pause to any of the verses mentioned in stanza 1. So enjambment is used here. Now we'll move on to the next stanza. So in the next stanza, now the author continues by saying, has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. So he is here stating that this action which was performed in stanza 1 by the movement of the crow, which resulted into some dust particles which fell from the hemlock tree on the author. So this particular action, this small action, has changed the heart of the author. Maybe the author might be in a very sad mood earlier, which is stated here, and saved some part of the day I had rude. So what do you mean by rude? Root is to held in regret. Okay, held in regret. Rude is held in regret. That means sadness, okay, or sorrow, or being sad. Right. So he's saying has given my heart a change of mood. So this particular action has changed the heart of the author and changed the mood of the author and saved some part. So he's saying that this change of mood, that means I was sad earlier, and now because of this small action of falling of the snow particles on me, this small action has changed my mood completely, and now I am happy. This has transformed my mood from a sad mood to a happy mood, and this transformation of my mood has saved, okay, कुछ समय जो बचा था उस दिन में से, जो उन्होंने बर्बाद करा था, जो पूरा दिन उनका बर्बाद हुआ था एक सैड और सॉरोफुल मूड की वजह से, एंड सेव्ड सम पार्ट ऑफ द डे. तो उन्होंने कुछ उस पूरे दिन में से वो ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन ऑफ मूड ने उनका थोड़ा सा दिन का हिस्सा, अ पार्ट ऑफ द डे वॉज सेव्ड, ओके, विच वॉज rude, which he held in regret or sadness. Okay, so he's simply saying that this first in the first stanza, the action which he was talking about, of falling off this dust particles, the snow particles on him, this very simple action has transformed his mood from a sad mood to a happy mood, which has saved some part of the day which he has already wasted in sadness or in a sorrowful mood. So in this particular stanza we can see again literary devices here. So the literary, first of all we'll talk about the rhyming scheme. So the rhyming scheme here is CD CD. Once again a similar pattern which we can see in stanza 1, CD CD. That means line number 5, verse number 5 heart, and verse number 7 part. Heart and part rhymes with each other, and verse number 6 and verse number 8 mood and root, they rhyme with each other, giving it a rhyming scheme CD CD. Next is we can see alliteration here. Now alliteration is the repetition of consonantal sounds. So here we can see alliteration in verse number 5 and verse number 7. So verse number 5 has given my heart. So the sound of H, okay, the sound of H is being repeated here, giving us a rhythmic pattern to the poem once again. Then verse number 7, which is and saved some part. So the sound of and saved some, the sound of sa, s, okay, the sound of sa is being repeated here again, which tells us that alliteration is used here. Again adds to the rhythmic pattern of the poem. Next is consonants. Now consonants is a repetition of consonantal sounds, but here the in consonants the only thing is that the consonantal sounds are not repeated repeated in the same parts of the word, but they are repeated in different parts of the word, okay. But repetition किसका हो रहा है? consonantal sounds का. right? So here in last verse we can see, of a day I had rued. So of a day I had rued. Now the sound of D, the consonantal sound of D is being repeated here again and again, of course in different words and in different parts of the word, but yes, they had and rude. So डे वर्ड के शुरू में ड का साउंड, देन हैड लास्ट में ड का साउंड, एंड रूड अगैन लास्ट में ड का साउंड, बट this consonantal sound of d is being repeated, giving us the literary device consonants, which is very beautifully used by the author Robert Frost. So here the author is giving us a very simple message, that we should not consider any action as big or small, or we should not consider any particular thing as bad, lucky or unlucky, bad or good. Sometimes even the worst thing can transform our mood and transform our thoughts very beautifully, shaping it into some very positive and beautiful things, like it happened with the author. So here with this very small poem, he is giving us a very big lesson and a very big message, that sometimes very small actions can result into big transformations, like this very small action of dusting of the snow on the author has completely transformed the mood of the author, converting it into a jovial and happy mood. So Robert Frost has beautifully written this poem with a very short poem, but a great depth into the meaning of it and the message which he is giving through this small poem. I hope you have understood this poem well, and if you have any doubts, you can write to me, you can comment me in the comment section. And for more explanation of grade 10th poems and lessons, you can subscribe to this channel, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, so that you can continuously get the notifications of the videos on a regular basis. So all the best to all of you, and thank you so much for listening.